Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman. Now I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit Down. Now, before we get going, you'll probably notice something different here between shooting the review for Season 1 of this show and shooting this review. My Comic-Con swag came, and behind me you can see the Comic-Con International San Diego Comic-Con 2020, because that's obviously what everything was printed as. Now, of course, it's become Comic-Con at home. But it features, this is my favorite thing that I bought, because it features Punchline. And she's just so cool, man. Like, I'm so about this character. And when I saw the shirt, I was like, yes, please. And I think what we'll do now with the chair is I wear a lot of, graphic tees. You guys know this, but you don't always get to see them. So I think I might just start putting. We've had John Wick up there, but now we'll throw Punchline. We'll rotate in some shirts so you guys can see everything I got. I got a pretty good graphic tee collection, but I digress from what is at hand today. A throwback Thursday, and we did throw it back in the last review. Talking about season 1 of this show. Can't believe I didn't review this last year. One of my favorite shows. And this season 2, we're getting ready to dive into. Best season of television in 2020 for my money. I know Ozark for me has held that title most of 2020 since I watched it way back in March. But I liked this, I think, even better because I just enjoy this stuff so much. You know what we're here for, man. So I can pull up a chair, take a seat. We're getting ready to dive in, spoiler free, into season 2 of The Umbrella Academy. Yes, baby, yes, they are back. Everybody's weird family of superheroes. And, oh, dude, this show, like, as I said, season 1 was just such a breath of fresh air to the whole genre because it was a different take on the concept of a superhero team or a superhero family. We've seen those takes many a time over at DC and Marvel. This take of superheroes and how they came together and how, Reginald Hargreaves bought them all to try to save the apocalypse. And then spoilers, if you haven't seen season 1, kind of have to say what happens at the end to set up what we get in season 2. But after failing to stop the apocalypse, and one of their own being the reason the apocalypse happens, that being Vanya, we hinted at that in the non-spoiler. I tried my best not to spoil anything. But Vanya's powers, strong enough to not only try to absorb the energy of her family members, which she does to a group of them that are trying to stop her toward the end after that sick violin bit, man, the music. Both seasons of Umbrella Academy, music is phenomenal. Could have used some violin this time around. Vanya doesn't need to use the violin in season 2, which is fine. But rewatching season 1, I really loved all that stuff. When she glows white and everything, it's so cool, man. But not only could she absorb the essence of her, brothers and sisters, which you would assume be anybody. When it's finally all snapped to a close, Allison shoots off a gun to knock her out of this power trance that she's in. It sets off a beam out of her chest that implodes the moon, and then giant asteroids hit, thus the apocalypse. But right before the apocalypse can hit, Five gathers everybody up and says, I can time jump with all of us. The guy who got time travel so wrong in season 1, he ended up landing in the world right after the apocalypse and being stranded for years. Became an old man because he was stuck there somehow. And then coming back, became a 13-year-old boy again, physically, even though he still had all of the years under his belt. So that kid goes, I'm going to time travel everybody. And portal hits, and everything blows up. Cha-Cha goes away. We see Hazel get away with his donut-making girlfriend. And everybody disappears, and that was the end of season 1. Which set up season 2 just being, what's next? What's going to happen? I think we all knew something funky was going to happen with 5. And while we're going to go non-spoiler with this, it's important to point out that the glitch that he has kind of drops everybody in the same place, but not necessarily in the same time, which allows the characters a lot of individual growth, or at least certain characters. And that sets up some wonderful things, which we've seen in the trailers, for season 2. And season 2, once again, when 5 finally shows up, is again the apocalypse is upon them. That something they did messed up the time stream, and as we saw in the trailer, when 5 lands, there's like a war going on, man. Let me tell you, that opening 7 minutes of the show where we find out what happened to everybody briefly, like you just see they kind of all get dropped off, and you're like, oh, okay, this is where we are. Then we follow, 5 in, and he's lost, nobody around, and just sees this war going on. You don't know why it's happening, you just know that it is. And then the show shows you the absolute potential that it could reach with everybody. It's the most mind-blowing, wonderful 7 minutes of the entire series. Like, I tweeted this out right away. I was like, the first 7 minutes, and funny, the number 7, about the last 7 minutes of episode 1, actually, when you're watching it. You get the first 7 minutes, what we're kind of getting at right now. Last 7 minutes, you get a really fun action sequence with Diego. I was like, it's funny that was in 7 minutes, because it's 7 members of the Umbrella Academy. That's just me. But the opening 7 minutes shows you the potential of what these guys could do if they really honed in on their power sets, you could say. And it's so, like, I was like, the first 7 minutes of season 2 is the best 7 minutes of the entire series to date. And the season just goes from there, man, to absolute wonderful places. This thing, it's hard when you can follow up something that's so good as season 1 with something as good as season 2, and not just as good. I found season 2 to be better than season 1, and it's because of how they elevate all of the characters, man. Big one for me in season 2 is Luther. He's a bit of a downer in season 1 because he's kind of lost in dealing with the fact that his dad sent him to the moon for years for literally no reason. So I get it. But Luther lands, he gets, I think, a year. They're all broken up in years. Klaus lands first, which is how he establishes a cult, which we saw in the trailer. Allison lands second, so that's like a year later. Then it's Luther, and then one more jump. So I think Luther has been around in this place for about a year when we come across him. And he's established his own world. Everybody pretty much thinks that everyone died and they were the only ones to kind of land, just because of the way things kind of happen. And it's fun to watch how everybody slowly runs into each other and how they regroup the team. But Luther, wow, dude, so much fun this year. Who he gets involved with in the show for his own, like, just personal life to, like, make money and a living and have a job. It's super interesting. I just love the way this show thinks and messes and takes pieces of history and inserts them. We saw brief glimpses of that when we saw 5 jumping around in season 1. But because we've actually time traveled, they're able to insert, like, some historical figures. So who he's working for, really, really cool situation. But also kind of gave him an identity. He's a bit of a brawler, which would match what he is, super strong and stuff. And he enjoys doing that stuff. And there is just the drunk scene in season 1 where Luther finally was able to cut loose a little bit. He goes out to the clubs, then he gets on ecstasy, and we get a lot more of that type of Luther, and not wasted Luther, but fun Luther. He's able to joke around a lot more, and it just seems like he's really enjoying himself. Played, of course, by the wonderful Tom Hopper. You really could feel like Tom was having a good time this season with the material they gave him. And I really thought that elevated a lot of Luther. And every time he was on screen, you were like, yes, give me more of this. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And I think the best way to go about talking about this show is pretty much just addressing the main characters. After the first season did so much building, season 2 is just able to go. It doesn't have to do any of that because we know everybody now. We know where everybody was at by the end of season 1, and we're able to establish where everybody is real quick at the beginning of season 2, so that you can just go, man. And they do, and they don't hold back. And again, the writing is absolutely stellar. The technical, camera work, production design, special effects, even better than season 1. Like, everybody brought their A game. From that standpoint, the direction and just the way the show was built out is wonderful. But when you get down into the characters, that's where you really find your gems with this show, and how you can really talk about it. And Luther being a lot more fun to be around in season 1 makes season 2 an immediate improvement. The one thing I will say about season 2 that I could have used more of, that season 1 does kind of get the edge on, is the usage of 5 and 5's fighting. We do get a spectacular 5 fighting sequence, but it still wasn't as good as the donut shop scene in season 1. I was missing that. But by taking away a ton of action for 5, they really give 5 a lot of story, and we really get to dive in on him a lot more in season 2. And once again, Aidan Gallagher is just phenomenal, dude. And some of the things they give him, specifically that one sequence of action, that's really awesome. I wanted more of it. Like, you see someone from a distance, I was like, get in there, I want to see what they're doing. Really, really cool take on what he can do with his power set. But because of that and just some of the things that go along with the story that he has, we do get to kind of find out more about him, get a little bit more into his psyche, and they just give Aidan Gallagher a ton to chew on and just so much fun. Like, I just always enjoy being around him when he's on screen. And again, he just knows how to make you feel like he's an old man in a 13, 14-year-old's body. He really captures that wisdom and the impatience that he has with everybody. It just so feels like an older version of that guy. I will say this about the action sequences. I kind of forgot that there's a bit where Aidan Gallagher, I don't think, is really good at the choreography stuff. So there's a sequence where it's pretty much all stunt double. And it's like a legit like hand-to-hand kind of combat. A lot of fun with that sequence, too. And the person involved in that sequence is a nice addition to the show as an overall whole. After that, though, you got to go back to my boy Klaus. Again, my favorite character in Season 2 because of what they do with his character and, as I hinted in the last review, what they do with Ben's character. The two of them together get so much to do just as a duo. You know, they give Ben a lot more. But the fact that, like, Klaus has ascended to, like, this prophet-level cult leader is just absolutely hysterical. And the way in which it happens, amazing. And the way in which the power set that these two have evolves in season 1, oh man, there is some fun that you don't even think about. Like, again, not reading the comics, didn't really think about this at all as something that could happen. And when it does, you're like, oh, that's genius, dude. Like, yes, give me more of this. And once again, the entire storyline, the way they just peel back all the layers in each character's story throughout the course of the season is masterful. It's so well done. It allows you to just enjoy the performance and absorb the material. And you get that with Klaus again. Like, now he's clean, so there are bits where he is like, oh, I really could. Maybe I should. Maybe I will. And it allows him to just have, again, sequences that are a lot of fun, situations that are just outrageous. And he just is my favorite character, man. What Robert Sheehan does with him is just, it's so enjoyable to watch on screen. He is absolutely electric. And when you're able to add in Justin H. Min and give Ben more to do this year and more to do with Klaus and more about their relationship and how it, has evolved from the beginning to now. All of that stuff is really, really awesome. And you thoroughly, again, just love watching them on screen. You're really able to enjoy Ben a lot more in season 2. And there's a bit about that character that is like, because he's not there, he can't let the truth be told. And some of the lies are things that, like, Klaus doesn't really reveal to everybody. Leads to just wonderful moments for both characters. Then we got, good old Miss Emmy Raver Lampman. She has been in this area the second longest. After Klaus, she's the one that gets dropped off. And she establishes an entire life for herself. She is an activist, which is really, really awesome. The setting is the 60s. So you're right around, as we saw in the trailer, the JFK shooting is involved around the day that they're trying to stop this time around and how that kind of affects things and what goes on in that day. You just get some really interesting stuff, but that allows Emmy Raver Lampman just to have a ton to do, a lot to say, and obviously things that are extremely relevant because, as we've seen, things have not really changed a whole lot since the 1960s. So the storylines you're able to pipe in there really allow you to speak to things that are going on in the present, and once again allow us to have a show or a movie or a piece of media that had no idea we were going to be where we were when it landed, And again, it is just unbelievably relevant. And once again, the story with her powers, the ability to, rumor anybody, and how that plays into her world at this point, and how she, struggles after losing her voice after Vanya almost killed her. But all that stuff is just really interesting, and they really give her some of the deepest and like most impactful storyline stuff, just because of the stuff that they're speaking to. And the fact that she is out of time, her perspective on things, and being able to bite her tongue or hold back at times, just really, really well executed. And I thought, again, a nice level up for Allison, and you really enjoy her on screen a lot more. And that pretty much rounds out the entire group outside of Diego, who doesn't even look like Diego, man. He's got long hair. He's got a beard. I think he's been there the third longest out of everybody. And just like Diego, going in Batman style, figuring out how to be a vigilante. Thing he is harping on this time around to be a hero. That's his thing. He's got to be the hero, is the JFK assassination. How can I stop it? How can we change it? And as the story progresses and things that are involved in that day, really, really interesting stuff that goes back to those things that we talk about for Diego with the family, and his relationship specifically with Grace, and his relationship specifically with Reginald, and how that plays in season 2. Really, really interesting stuff. But the other thing is they give him a sidekick this year. We get a newcomer in Ritu Arya, who plays Lila Pitts. She is in the mental institution with Diego at the beginning of the show. Because Diego is Diego, doesn't take him really long to get committed in the 1960s. And she's in with him, and when he tries to break out, she kind of tags along, and because she can hold her own, and Diego kind of likes her, I think, and there's this raw, crazy person sexiness to the way that she just does things. Like, everything she does is electric, and you're just like drawn to her. So you totally understand why Diego kind of goes that way, and Ritu Arya just crushes on that level. From a character perspective, everything she does just lands perfectly, and she really, really makes you go, oh man, like, yes, this is we need more of this. And her storyline, I don't really want to get into too much at all, because hers probably contains the most spoilers, because she's the new person. But what her storyline is and where they take it, bravo, Umbrella Academy. It's absolutely brilliant, and I can't wait to see where we go, going forward with that character and what she can do. And the relationship between her and Diego is just great throughout the whole show. And as I said, the stuff with Diego, again, just really rich, and again, getting into the family. Most of the family stuff really stems from Diego. That's what we've seen in the 2 seasons. And how he deals with the family things this time around, specifically, with Grace and Reginald. Really interesting stuff. I really enjoyed watching that. And then, of course, we got our big power, our big bad that we didn't know was the big bad in season 1, the cause of the apocalypse, Miss Vanya Hargreaves. What she got in season 2? Ooh, man, what they give us with Vanya. Let's just say that by the end of season 1, I had high hopes for what they could do with Vanya because of her power set. And we don't even really understand entirely what she can do with her power set. But considering how powerful she is, the ideas that run in your head at what could happen, none of them gave me what we got. And it's awesome. We get to see a little Vanya in full control of her powers, and it's gorgeous. We'll just say that. But her overall story, I really did enjoy a lot more than I did in season 1. Like I said, on the rewatch in season 1, she comes off a little bit whinier than you want her to. In season 2, she's way more in control of herself. And when she takes, through going through the time hop for her, leads to something that kind of scrambles her brain a little bit, so she's not entirely clear of everything that's going on. So it kind of gives the Umbrella Academy a second chance at approaching Vanya in maybe a different way than they approached her in season 1, or maybe a very similar way. And watching, like I said, just all of the team members find each other and come together, but specifically how Vanya starts to get reintroduced to her family, and how that all plays and how they approach it. It's one of these things, like, you get the second chance and they don't always get it right away. This is a team that makes mistakes. and learns from them. Season 2 definitely tells you that they've learned some things, and some of those things kind of harden some of the characters, and some of those things help improve the characters. But Vanya, just kind of watching her go from the fuzziness to being in control of her powers and knowing that she has them, to what we get by the end of the season, I just thought it was a brilliantly written storyline. Like, you just sit there and you go, oh, look what you did. Umbrella Academy Season 2 will make a golf clap or standing O clap many, many a times. There are multiple times where I cheered during this thing, man, because there are some action sequences. We mentioned Ritu Arya and Lila Pitts. She gets some of the best action sequences in the show, as does Diego. Diego's got some really good ones. But they're just so good. And again, everything that has to do with the team is really, really good, as well as those supporting pillars. So when you add someone like Lila, really, really good add. You add the 3 blonde guys we see in the trailer, how they play into the season, what they do. They have some of the most gruesome pieces of the puzzle, that's for sure, and they're just terrifying. I'm not even gonna pull any punches. They are legitimately scary. While Cha-Cha and Hazel were threatening in Season 1, and the handler could be threatening, and evil with that smile that we love with Kate Walsh. One, because of what happened at the end of Season 1, not shocking, no Cha-Cha in Season 2, spoilers, but she got obliterated by the apocalypse in the original timeline. We do get some Hazel, not a lot of Hazel, but he has a very, very important sequence, and the minute you just smile when you see Hazel. Loved what they did with his character. But that's what they're able to do, is even with these small supporting characters, the Commission this time around, we get a lot more involved in the Commission, and some of their side characters get a lot more to do. People we're familiar with, some new characters. We saw that guy with the fish in the bowl, the fishbowl head. That stuff was cool, man. Again, we get a creature that is CGI that looks so legit. And yes, we also saw in the trailer Pogo. I can confirm we do get to see baby Pogo, and he's adorable. Not quite baby Groot, but you're like, oh, Pogo's little. He's got a little type. It's adorable. And how that plays into Reginald and Reginald's storyline. The other pillar that really supports everything here, the mystery of Mr. Reginald Hargreaves. We get some answers, some half answers, and no answers. Just more questions. But how everything plays with Reginald this season, I really, really enjoyed. And specifically, interactions with his children. How they write that stuff in just is executed so well. But I digress, because we were talking about the Commission. We do get to see a bunch of the Commission, kind of side characters that we saw in Season 1, as well as that new guy with the fish in the bowl. How we got on our side tangent to Pogo and then Hargreaves. And let's just say there's one other character who has a lot to do with the running of the Commission in Season 2, and that storyline about who's in charge and who's running things. Rather interesting. Really good. And again, it's funny. I was like, I wanted more of the donut diner or donut shop for 5 in his action sequences, and you just kind of forget, because there's nothing that looked like that. But he does get a wonderful action sequence because of stuff going on with the Commission. That's just brilliant, dude. Like, you sit there and you're like, oh, that's awesome, and it's very violent. But how that all plays, everything that's going on over there, and how that plays into the Season 2, I just loved all of it, man. I like I said, they really found ways to just elevate all of their main characters. The supporting characters add really good pieces of story and do a really good job in supporting the main story and elevating everything that the main group's got to carry. And again, Hargreaves, where you're at, what he's got going on, what we learn about him this time. Again, we get another piece very similar to Season 1, when we kind of get a flashback to Hargreaves in like a moment with a woman, and you just see something happen, and you're like, I wonder what that's about. You get another scene like that this year with Hargreaves, where you go, I wonder what that's about. But it's more of a, oh my God, I wonder what that's about type moment. And I love that stuff. But the other thing that you get again in Season 2 is a cliffhanger ending that just makes you go, where they're gonna go in Season 3, they might outdo themselves again. Like, it looks like, and I was talking to my buddy who has been reading the comics, and he's like, I haven't gotten through all of the third run of the books, but it kind of touches, from what I've heard, loosely on what we see at the end of season 2, and it just like, you want to talk about cheering, freaking out, and going, what? That's what we get, and I'm so fascinated by where they could go, and I'm really, really fascinated to see where Season 3 in Umbrella Academy can go as far as the super-powered humans, or superheroes. Not necessarily superheroes, but the superhumans. These supers that exist, and the idea of maybe more than 7 of them. Let's just say some of the storylining. Remember, there was a whole bunch of kids that got born all at that exact same moment when the Umbrella Academy were all born. Nobody else had powers, or so we think. There's definitely hints in Season 2 that there could be an expanding world of supers and possibly get us into more traditional type comic book superhero stuff. But I hope they even if you give them some of that, and you have some more superhero looking stuff in this one, they definitely do some more like, oh, this is like a comic book movie or show. But they still continue to just find really interesting ways to get into these characters. The characters drive the show, and it's as successful as it is because the stories for each of these characters, at least at this point, seem to get better as you go along. As these writers and these showrunners have more time with these characters, they really start to get into a groove with where they can go. And as you're able to peel back more and more layers, these characters are so complex. It gives you just really, really interesting material. So not only is like the production and the writing and the casting and the acting and all that stuff good, but like it's really, really interesting and gripping, which makes you keep pushing play, where all of a sudden 10 hours on a Saturday go by and you're like, oh damn, season 2's over. Can't wait for season 3. So there you go, man. Those are all the Seaman's non-spoiler thoughts on season 2 of the Umbrella Academy. Best season of television in 2020 thus far. You got a contender coming though, because The Boys, that was my other favorite show from last year. Season 2, I think, is going to up it as well. Like, I love like the back and forth in the superhero world, like DC and Marvel, always going back and forth. I'm loving on the TV scale the back and forth that we might start to be seeing between Umbrella Academy and The Boys, because they both came out in 2019, not really close to each other. This time around, maybe they were close to each other. I don't remember. This time around, real close to each other, less than a month, I think, in between their season releases, or maybe just over a month. But regardless, they just seem to keep trying to up each other. Like, for me, I like The Boys season 1, I think, a little bit more than Umbrella Academy. But Umbrella Academy Season 2, I liked more than The Boys Season 1. So I'm interested to see what we get when they come out in September, and see if they up the ante anymore going into Season 3 for these shows. But without comparisons, Umbrella Academy Season 2 is just wonderful, man. You find ways to elevate your characters, give us stuff we haven't seen, give us more interesting things to watch, and just like put them in a world that's just, oh man, you could do all of this, and set up something where next season you go, oh man, you can do all of this? I can't wait to see where we go. So those are all my non-spoiler thoughts on Umbrella Academy Season 2. Now I know what you're thinking, man. You a fan of the Umbrella Academy? You'd hope by Season 2, if you're getting in on this, you are a fan. And if you just are joining along, I hope Season 1 got you hooked real quick and you just cruised on through and enjoyed this as much as I did, man, because it is a joyous show to watch. It's so freaking good. And just how they tackle things that were left over from Season 1, how it affects the characters, moves them, like, this team is just crushing it. So if you feel that way, certainly let me know. If you don't think it was as good as Season 1, or maybe it let you down a little bit, or just anything you're thinking about the Umbrella Academy, you know what to do. Down below in the comments section, as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new, you want to come hang out with us when we talk in Umbrella Academy, Boys Season 2, anything, movie, TV, trailers, you just want to show Seaman a little love, I will really, really enjoy it if you jump over there, man. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time, for the Seaman Cinema Sit Down, I have been the Seaman, and I am signing off. Peace! Well, I'll be. You guys are still here. You must be looking for some more content. Well, don't worry. Seaman's got you covered, man. You got videos like this guy and this guy. And if you haven't yet, and you want to come check out all the Seaman goodies, join the Cinema Sit Down squad, man. Hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the little bell down below that, too, so you can get alerts every time I make new videos.